I'm going to show you guys how to make a corner to corner. I'm going to use sugar and cream and a 4.5mm hook. So we're going to start off with a slip knot. Then you're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're going to go back to the third 1, 2, 3, the third stitch, and you're going to do 1 double crochet into that stitch. You're going to do a double crochet into the next stitch. And you're going to do a third double crochet into the last stitch. So that's the first cluster. So now you're going to chain 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're going to go back to the third 1, 2, 3, and you're going to do a double crochet into that. So technically there are going to be 4 strands, but you'll see why it feels like it's only 3. This very much mimics the granny stitch once you get going with it. So you do 3, 1 double crochet into each of the 3 chains. Then you flip this up, so where you did the 3 chains, that becomes where you're going to attach. So you do a slip stitch, then you chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and in this space you're going to do 3 double crochets. So that's where it feels like a granny stitch if you're familiar with that cluster. 2, 3, and you're just going to keep repeating that, and each time, so there was 1 cluster, 2, the next row is going to have 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other way is 1, 2, 3, 4. Go 4 chains down, put in a double crochet, and then double crochet in the next 2 chains. Grab that corner, put a slip stitch, chain up 3, and we're putting 3 double crochets into that space. And you repeat that again. So you'll keep doing that until you have increased to the width that you would like, and whichever the smaller side is, that's the side you're going to need to stop first. So I'm going to do a few more rows and we'll come back and learn how to decrease. For this, I'm just making a little dishcloth. So I am at the side that I want to be the shorter side, and I've just finished the row. So now I'm going to start the decrease, which means this is as wide as it's going to get, this stitch right here. So I'm going to turn my work after I make a chain. I turn my work, and working in the top of the double crochet, I'm going to do slip stitches across. And I'm going to do one more in the top that's made by the chains. And then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to do 3 double crochets into this stitch. And I will continue this row as normal. So slip stitch, chain up 3, 3 double crochet, and I'll keep going until I get to this corner, and that's what the decrease looks like. When I put the border on, that will be a little less wobbly, but I'm going to continue until I'm ready to decrease on this side. I'm ready to make it a rectangle now. This is what the decrease side looks like. So now we're going to start the decrease on this side, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to do a chain, we're going to flip it, and do slip stitches up the 4 double crochet. The last one is the chain of 3 we did up. And then we will chain 3 and continue moving forward. And I'll stay on while I do this row so you can see one complete row. So I like to use this stitch for blankets. I like to use the Bernat blanket yarn to make very fluffy warm blankets. I use between an 8 and an 11.5 with the blanket yarn, depending how holey I guess I want it to be. If you want less holes, you would use the 8mm. If you want it to be super fluffy and a little bit more lightweight, you would use the bigger millimeter. But 10 is usually my go-to. I like the way the stitches look like with the 10 and the Bernat. But you can also make dish towels on a smaller scale. And I also like to make scarves with this stitch. And the fact that you can make one side very small and the other side as long as you want, it makes it very versatile. It's also very exciting when you get to the second decrease because it's all downhill from there. But this has become one of my favorite stitches just because it mimics the granny square, which is a stitch I'm comfortable with, but it also has a very nice texture, as you see with this variegated yarn. It kind of pulls the colors, but also makes them pop. So now we are in the last stitch on this side. And we're going to connect here. Going to chain 1, turn it around, do my slip stitches, remembering to do that 4th one into the chain set, and then I just keep going. So I'm going to get to the last cluster and I will come back and show you how I finish it off. I'm to my favorite part, which is the last cluster. when I get to the end, you can just let it go, but I like to bring the last slip stitch all the way back to the corner. Just for me, it feels like a true corner to corner. And then that is where, if I'm doing a border, I will begin the border. So we do our last slip stitch to join the clusters, chain, one, two, if you are just going to leave it there and not do a border, you would do 2 chains, pull it tight. But because the edges do get a little uneven and wobbly, I just like to clean it up with a single crochet or a half double crochet. The open ones are easy. I just do 3 into the space, and I am doing half double for this. If there are double crochets up, I go all the way down to the hole. And what I mean by that is I stitch into that part. And I try and keep it multiples of 3 as I go through, just to keep it even. And each side, because of the increases and decreases, there are little tricks, but maintaining the same number per cluster, which is why I choose 3, makes it an even looking border. So I'm going to finish this up and I will show you the finished product. So I haven't finished yet, but corners are always a little tricky. So I'm going to do a stitch in this direction. I'm going to chain 1, I'm going to turn it so now it's this direction, but I'm still going to do another, or the first one for this side in here. So 1, 2, 3, and this side is different. You'll notice I did 1 in the gap here and then 2 on the double crochet. So now I will go in between here, and it's just because they were all facing different ways with the increases. So I did between each of those. I'll go in this space for 1, and then I'll do 2 on the double crochet here. If a different way feels better for you, it's really whatever makes the most sense to what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish. The most important thing for me is that I keep multiples of 3. So I've made it all the way around. I'm going to go into the first stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch it, do 2 chains, cut it with a healthy sized tail, and then pull that all the way to the piece. So that is the finished product.